Oh, fish on, fish on, fish on, fish on. Fish on, fish on, that's a rainbow for sure. That's not small. No. Fish on, guys. First fish in the morning. I was just about to do the intro. And he's topside. Would you relax, please? Pinned him right in the top of the mouth, just where I want him to be. First one of the season. There we go, folks. First rainbow trout on the ice, and that was on a worm. All right, let me show you guys how I'm setting these up. These are just 20 trout worms. I'm using the automatic fisherman snapper. I feel like this is slightly better than the jaw jacker. Now I have both of them. The snapper does not have a mechanism that can easily freeze, which is why I like it and why I use it. I've actually had the jaw jacker mechanism get water on it just from splashing the, fish splashing at the hole, and that trigger freeze, and I didn't realize it. And if a fish is smart, he will feel that tension and just drop it. And I've seen that on underwater camera, which is why I no longer use jaw jackers. Love them or hate them, we're going to be ice fishing for stocked rainbow trout. Now there are browns in this lake as well, but the primary stocking in this lake is rainbow trout. Anywhere from 12 inches all the way up to like quite bigger size ones. They put bigger size ones in here this year. And so what I like to do, I'm going to go over how I set my lines up and where I set them up first thing in the morning. And I try to tend to move them out a little bit deeper as the day goes on. Now, forage in this lake is insects or bugs, and then secondary forage is tiny little perch, which I'll show you a picture. I caught one like immediately once I first got here. There's like carpet perch, we call them, which is basically just a really tiny perch, and that's the forage for bigger rainbows or anything bigger in this pond. I'm sure there's bass in here too. Now, the state I'm in is in New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire stocks trout in the fall just so people can come catch them on the ice, and they can keep them and bring them home. So this is a put intake fishery. These fish do not survive during the summertime. It gets way too warm in this particular water body. So what I want to do now is I'm going to draw with my spud bar the bathymetric map of this lake and kind of show you what it looks like and why I'm setting stuff up where I'm setting. So if we're looking at the lake, this is a cross section of the lake. This top line is going to be the surface of the water, and this bottom part, now this is probably around 15 to 20 feet right here, and then obviously it comes up shallow on both sides, and there's weeds on the side. So there's going to be weeds up on the shallow parts on both sides. Now when we are setting our lines, we want to be setting our lines kind of off in that weed line right here from the surface heading down, obviously. And this area right here is only a couple of feet deep, probably 2 feet deep, not super deep at all. So right now we're really close basically to the boat launch. One, because the ice out deep is not very safe yet. Probably head out there a little later. It's 17 degrees now, so I'm making ice as I'm standing on it, which is always good. So we are setting our lines up super shallow first thing in the morning as those rainbow trout push up stuff against shore. Now later in the afternoon, we are going to set up in the middle area here when the perch push down deeper and they start feeding on those perch. So later in the afternoon when the sun comes up, those perch will stop feeding shallow and they'll go down deeper. So you can see from my lines, that one's probably in about 3 feet, that one's in a couple of feet, and then I have two more over here and about 2 to 3 feet of water just off the weed lines. And how I can tell that is you can either, one of the easiest ways to tell if there's weeds down there is one, look down the hole if there's enough light we got here in the dark. The other way to do that is to grab a jigging rod with like a rattle trap, something with double treble hooks on there, and drop it down and kind of like rip off bottom. If you rip up a bunch of weeds, there's a bunch of weeds that you don't want to set it there. You want to set it just off that weed line. Now in those weeds, that is what supports life in the lake. There's bugs, there's all sorts of stuff hatching on those weeds. that support the rainbow trout in this pond until they get to the size where they can eat that perch. They'll still eat perch. I'm using Owner's mosquito hooks. The part number is 51770-033. You guys can, and I'll leave the link for that off Amazon below. I think they sell them in like huge packs. This is just an 11 pack for whatever reason. These are size 8s. I also use size 6s, depending on what size fish I'm going for and depending on if I'm putting bigger worms on or not. But I like to use a small hook. That way if they do get gut hooked, the hook will rust out pretty quickly because I'm not keeping the fish. If I was keeping fish, I wouldn't really care that much. And I'm just tying my regular old fisherman knot. And I have a probably 6 foot, 6 pound fluorocarbon ice line on here. And just because I know there's some bigger fish in here, and if you have pickerel or pike, you'll get bit off a little less if you go up in that poundage. And most of these are all stock fish. They're not super line shy. And we're just gonna hook that trout worm on there once. Twice, just like that. I know it sounds silly to go over that, but there's some people that have never ice fished before or never put a worm on before. So I'd like to cover everything. Now we have sun coming up here in a minute, and so I'll fish here for a little bit longer, and then I'll push out and drill some more holes. Now with the worm, I like to suspend it 6 inches off bottom or so. And there's a ton of perch down there right now, so I'm not going to even bother setting it down because they're just going to steal my worm over and over and over again. So if you're finding this as an issue, what you can do is perch don't tend to come to the surface as much, but rainbows like to come up right below the ice. So what we can do is we can bring that right below the ice there, and a cruising rainbow will look up and see that, but a perch might not come up and grab it. I mean, literally right below the ice. You guys can see that. So I'm running 3 different rods today, and one of the rods that I'm running 3 different rods today. One of the rods that I just started trying out is the new Carbon Auto Medium 34 from Circle Tackle. Full cork handle, still has the plastic on it. I'm literally just trying it this morning. And that thing is corked over, ready for a rainbow trout. And on this line, I have an egg suspended off bottom. I'll give you a really secret tip. Stop walking around. Like, just stop. Stop doing it. It scares the fish. You're only in a couple feet of water. They can feel every footstep that you're doing. I'm only walking because I'm going to my next spot, and I'm going to set up a jigging rod and probably jig up some perch while I'm waiting for these rainbows to come by. And I will leave the link for that Circle Tackle rod below. The other ones are ugly stick rods. They are a little light to set the hook sometimes with deeper water, but super shallow, they work great. They have that nice little flexible tip, and they're indestructible. So, fish on, guys, fish on. Fish on, fish on. Another little rainbow. Perfect. It's number 2 for the day. Nice little male. Got a little kite there going on. It's trying to, at least. Back in he goes. That's the first fish on the new rod. Yeah, he didn't pull any drag on that, so we're just gonna literally just set it right back up again. If you don't want to spring the money for each individual setup, we can run 6 lines in my state. So right now I'm running 4 and I'm jigging. So I got quite a bit of money on the ice. If you want to just run cheap tip-ups, which you can do, is wrap a rubber band, and Joe Holland explained it best. And I'll see if I can find his video, or I'll ask him. He's been on the channel before. I'll see if I can ask him to find that video and send it to me. And I'll put the link for it below. basically what you do is you wrap the rubber band around the line and then wrap it around the reel so that fish can only run like 3 feet. And in his case, like 25 feet, so they can inhale a big shiner or a big smelt. Just a little bit so that fish instantly gets hooked and so he doesn't bury it all the way in the back. That's what's great about these jawjackers or snappers. The instant the fish bites it, he's getting whacked immediately. There's no gut hooking, especially if you're practicing catch and release like I am today. It's the best thing for the fish. Oh, fish is on. Oh, big fish is on. Big fish is on. Yeah. That's a little bit bigger. Right in the weeds, folks. That one was on the egg. And I'm not keeping him out long because it's freezing out. He goes back in. So I will be doing separate videos for brookies, for browns. I will leave a link for a couple of brook trout videos below, just in case I don't make it to brookies before we get lake trout ice, which is obviously my specialty. But we're gonna, that hole is all really dirty now because that fish went right into the weeds and basically snagged himself. So we're gonna move it over to one of the other holes that I drilled here. So these are the eggs that I like to use, Gulp Alive, floating salmon eggs. Now this hook that I'm using is just enough to sink one of these eggs. If I'm using more than one, I will put a split shot on there. Two like that, make sure that hook is exposed. Just like that. Now another thing you have to repeatedly do, this is with all ice fishing stuff, you can run what's called a foam cover, which I've never used, or you can just go around and continually clear the ice away from your line. So if that line freezes into the ice, the jawjacker or snapper, whatever you want to call it, will not go off and you will miss fish. Still waiting on another fish. I think we're at like 3 or 4 for today. And we've only been here for a couple of hours. I have seen people just dead stick a jig and a little tungsten jig with a little plastic on the back, like a little stonefly kind of looking thing. That also works. I've never done it though, but I've seen people do that up in Canada. And just keep checking your lines. Make sure they don't freeze in. So this is the secret tip at the end. Get here and drill your holes with a headlight on. Check your ice first. Drill your holes in the dark. Drill is more holes than you think you need, because as soon as you start drilling that stuff, those fish scatter, especially in shallow water. So drill holes in the dark before it's legal time. Don't bring out your fishing gear, and then set your fishing gear up when it's legal time and fish from there on. You'll catch a lot more fish. I've proven it over and over again. That's why I don't do a lot of videos of me like drilling holes, especially when I'm doing this, because it's in the dark. Drill holes in the dark. This is still the easiest way to catch fish. This is still the easiest way to ice fish for stocked rainbow trout. And make sure your drag is set properly. I have a buddy that's out there that just got broken off, and he's very sad. So same regimen for the rest of the day. We're basically, in the next probably 10 minutes or so, we're gonna pack up these and actually head out deeper and try to catch that deeper fish bite, maybe for some bigger ones. And you could also use shiners too. You can use live bait, but I don't have any live bait. I tried to trap the other day and it didn't work. So if you wanna see more ice fishing content, click here for ice fishing and more how-to content, just how to fish, ice fish stuff in general. Click over here and I'll see you on one of those next videos. And if you want to support the channel, visit bennettfish.com, and I have all sorts of gear and tackle and baits. Till next time.